Hello, my name is Manuela, and today I'm really excited to introduce you to Kaja and Søren from Novo Nordisk. In this story, we will discover how the digital innovation team, part of Novo Nordisk's clinical development business area, have adopted and championed the use of the Power Platform. We will see from the solutions that they have built that the whole platform is better together. Stay tuned and get inspired.
Hi, and thank you for the introduction, Manuela. This is a customer story from Novo Nordisk. We will tell you a little bit about our Womble with Power Apps. But just to get us started, who we are. This is Kaja Andersen. She's our Power Apps developer. And my name is Søren. I'm heading up digital innovation. To introduce Novo Nordisk, pharmaceutical company present in 80 different countries, so a very big global footprint, very much focused on diabetes, hemophilia, growth disorder, and obesity. But as we are a big company, we also have a big need for digitalization, and that's where we come in. Our department is called Digital Innovation. We are a part of the Novo Nordisk headquarters. We're part of the Digital Transformation Group in clinical development. It essentially means that we drive a digital agenda on really trying all the various business components we have in our part of the company, that they should work smarter. We are one of many digital departments that exist in this company, and we're anchored with the business. They're the ones that actually perform the business, but we work really closely with the global IT. So we're a department of 4 data scientists, 3 data engineers, and 3 Power App developers, and then myself. And we try to build a digital foundation for our various processes. We're really cultural ambassadors, really trying to preach the digital way of working, the way we like it. And we do that by doing a lot of digital consultancy, really going out and talk to the customers in that sense being our colleagues in Novo Nordisk, and trying to understand their problems and solve them. So one disclaimer, at least with this presentation, is that this is just what we experienced, our story. This is not the official Novo Nordisk digital journey or anything. It's just the story, that we experienced it and how we retell it. So how our Power Apps journey started is really just with a leap of faith that a lot of Power Apps licenses were bought from the belief that this could really change the way we work, and then we got started. And that's the way the story started. And another way to describe it, an English word that I learned, is a Womble, which is a purposeful journey, which means that you know where you start, you know you have a purpose, you know you want to do something, but you have no idea where you're going to end. And I think that really describes what this is. But we had a first Power Apps hackathon in September 19. Then this leap of faith happened in December 19th. And then COVID hit right after the beginning of 2020. And that's where we had the first apps developed out of the Power App space that really made a huge difference. And we will come more into details with that. And then if you can see with the greenish dots on this slide, more apps, more solutions came in, and we had more hackathons. And as you can also see, as you approached the right-hand side of the slide, we have a lot of launches, most recently, various solutions. So really picking up pace using all of this. Yeah. But enough talking from the high-level side of it.
Yeah.
I'll leave the
continued Womble to me.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's been a very fun Womble so far. We've had, as you say, Søren, a lot of solutions coming in here from 2021, and we only see a backlog filled with a lot more applications coming in as we go along. So that's great to see the interest is rising in not only in the area that we are in, but in the entire Novo Nordisk. And I want to go back to the licenses that we purchased, because it actually was very important for us in terms of the Womble that we had, because it turned the journey upside down. We instead of starting with a solution or a platform that had some components that were available to us and some connections that we were able to connect to, we had a full playground, a full candy store open, available to us from day one. We could just go in and grab down from the shelves whatever we wanted to, and that also shaped the way we go about creating our solutions here in Novo Nordisk, or at least in the area department that we are in. So we do try to look holistically at the platform and bring in all of the components that we find meaningful for the solutions each time we do a new round of development. So it's not only about going in and looking at one flow, saying how can this optimize a subset of a process or one specific task, or we go in and look at a Canvas app or model-driven app specifically and say, okay, what can this app collect of data for us that makes it easier to replace an Excel sheet. Instead, we actually go in and say, how can this support the process together, both the Canvas app for collecting the data and also the flow for automating and elevating the processes, making it less redundant and moving the user from a reactive state, being more proactive in their way of going about the process. We also go in and use a lot of Power BI reports in our solutions so that we create dashboards for getting insights and creating an overview for the users, either as a standalone report or as an embedded tile or dashboard inside of our applications. So we are going very broadly around the platform, creating a Canvas apps as a front end, model-driven app as a back end, using the reports, creating 10, 15 flows in each of our solutions to really elevate the process. And we are also starting to venturing into the Teams aspect or the Teams universe of the platform. So when we bought the licenses a little over a year ago, we didn't see that greater connection yet, but I'm sure to say that Microsoft has really nudged it up here, because Teams for Dataverse for Teams now and the integration between Teams and the Power Platform components are really coming together. So that's a part that we are going to look even more at going forward, because it just makes sense for the solutions that we create. And we've brought along an example that we're going to show a little later on, where we actually are utilizing all of these components together, of course, on top of Dataverse, because Dataverse is the integral baseline for all of our solutions that we build. We use it every time, and it has so many out-of-the-box functionalities that we find really important to make a successful solution here in Novo Nordisk. So we've brought along just a couple of examples of solutions that we've created in the team throughout the last year, and one of them being the one that I'm going to present now, which has a really high business value, both because it really landed in a place where we didn't have a great solution or a great overview, but also because it really showed the capabilities of the platform for our senior management, so that they were able to see what success we can make with this platform, and then utilizing it going forward even more. So validating the platform in Novo Nordisk was this solution really paved the way for that. So this was created last year when the pandemic hit us all with COVID-19. We are helping people conduct trials, and we are having a lot of people out on our sites, the hospitals, the clinics, that help monitor all of these trials that we conduct. But as the pandemic hit us all, the overview of how the trials were going, whether these sites, the clinics, the hospitals were shut down, we didn't have a proper overview to see how it was going and how we could adapt to the situation. So the way we thought we had to do it was to have all of these Excel spreadsheets and sending them out to these monitors on the sites, and they were then to collect the data, whether or not the clinics and the hospitals were closed and whether we could take in patients, then sending it back to someone that again validated it and moving it on to headquarters that then again collected all the data together to get an overview. And by the time it would hit headquarters, the data was outdated and we had to go back in the beginning and collect the data once more. So we had a solution for that. We created an app that could go directly out to the monitors on these sites, in the clinics, in the hospitals, ask them a few questions that they could submit from these sites, sending them right back into the Dataverse, the solutions that we have built, and then created a dashboard on top of that data to display the overview globally around the world where all our trials were conducted. So that quickly gave us this overview of what was the situation in different areas of the world, making it available for the senior management to both get the overview, but also to make decisions and adapt based on that. And this was done in only 8 or 9 days, and it's running globally. More than 1,000 people are using the applications on a weekly basis. So this was really pivotal for us to showcase. But we also brought along another example, a more technically diverse solution that's fun to go through. And that's a solution called IO sourcing. And IO is international operations. We need to have these monitors, as I told before, on the sites, in the clinics and the hospitals to monitor how the trials are conducted. And we do have some people internally that are able to do that, but we are also finding the need to have people coming in from outside. So having vendors help us find external people to fill these positions. The way it was conducted before, the way this process was utilized before, was through an Excel sheet where we kept an overview of all the FTEs that we were having. What was the tracking, the progress of these positions? How far along were they? Were they keeping the thresholds, these vendors, were they due in time to find the resources and things like this? We couldn't keep an overview in this Excel sheet. And on the other end of the table, we had the vendors sitting with their own Excel sheet and their own version of the truth of how this was going. So we had no way of finding one place of truth in between these Excel sheets to actually know what was going on and to keep these agreements and thresholds. So this is a solution that both utilizes Power Apps and Power Automate. It utilizes Microsoft Teams. It also has Power BI dashboards in them. And of course, we are building this on top of Microsoft Dataverse. We are also having the users put into Azure AD groups, and we are applying security roles from Dataverse on these groups so that we are keeping access management that way, and we are helping segregating or granulating the different permission levels that these user groups have. But let me dive a little more into the solution and look at the different screens and user groups that we have. So the first screen here is the Canvas app screen. As you see, it's in a mobile format, and we are having one user group, the people that are requesting the FTEs to their different countries and regions, and also tracking what are the progress. Before, this was done via email. So these people would send a mail and say, we need a resource for this country with this level of something, seniority, and then a person in IO, a manager, would sit and approve or not reject this resource. And if they approved, then they would go on and send another email to the vendor saying, oh, I want this resource, please go find it. And it was just a messy process. We didn't have an overview of when and where these mails were sent, and nobody knew the whole truth. So we now created a screen for them, or an app for them, where they could go in more formally and structured to request the new FTE. And then once they did that and has typed in all the information needed, they would press submit, and an approval flow would start. And a person on the other end would then get this request to either approve or reject the resource. So once they do that, they get this overview on the right side of the screen where they could track the progress of that FTE they have just requested. And here again, if the resource is approved, they can go in and initiate a hire. And when they do that, this will also trigger a Power Automate flow that would go out to these vendors and telling them in a formal, structured way, we have now initiated a hire for this specific resource in this specific country. Please go and find a fitting person for that role. So going back a little step to the approval, as I said, we also utilize Teams in this instance. So we send out a flow that goes into Teams, utilizes adaptive cards, and then pops up as a notification for this manager's team site and can then go in and approve and reject. And there we would also have a list of old requests that were coming in. So we do keep track over time of what has been approved, what has been rejected, not only as part of the app itself, but also in Teams. When they approve from their side, we have another user group that is also able to go in and monitor these resources. So not only do we have Canvas app for one user group that are going to request and track progress, we also have another user group of approving these requests and going in and monitoring whether or not the data inputs are actually correct. So they go in via a model-driven app to look at the different data coming in. It could be a resource with a certain rate card, and we need to just validate, okay, does this look correct in terms of what the person has requested from this vendor or not? So we always keep track of the data coming in and making sure that it's validated and it's correct. We also do have another Power BI dashboard that showcases this in another way. So this is more visual and attends to the different user groups also. So not only do we have an app showcasing in a list view what are the statuses, what are the resources, we also have more visuals to actually give the same insights. And moreover, we also in the Power BI dashboards keep an overview of the forecasting. So based on historical data, what would the next 3 months look like in terms of forecasting supply and demand? What are the accumulated costs that we foresee versus what is coming in via the invoices? So we do have many different parameters and metrics that we can make use of. And then just another cherry on top, we also created a portal that is external facing for the vendors. So before, as I told, they only have an Excel sheet to keep track of their own incoming requests for new resources. What we instead did was to create a portal solution for them so they could go in and actually look directly into our database and see what were the incoming requests that we have for resources that we've initiated a hire on. So they go in, each of the vendors, they have a login, we authenticate them via Azure B2B, and they are met with a list of open positions in the first screen, meaning that these are positions where we have initiated a hire, but there are no vendors yet that have claimed they have a specific person for that role. So every vendor that we have related to this solution can go in and see this list. At a point in time when a vendor has found a resource to fill a specific role, they can go in and claim that role in that list, and then removing it from the open positions list into a closed list with their hires only. And that will only be available to that specific vendor. So each of them have a list of their own hiring they have claimed. And that way we can keep track of which vendor has which resources in the system as well. And then putting some responsibility on them in terms of updating the resource. So that was the showcasing of some really cool solutions that we created so far, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of those going forward.
I certainly hope so. I think they look cool. And maybe just to round it off a little bit, the way we see what lies ahead of us is that I definitely see this platform, the whole low-code concept, as really as an enabler for digitalization in Novo Nordisk, the way we work. That a lot more people can pick this up and work with it. That also means that we have to look into how do we get a wider utilization, where we both have citizen developers and really pro devs, really experts in this, and have them working in the same environment, in the same tools. That is a challenge, and that will be super interesting. Yeah. And then as this is a pharma space, we work very much with regulations, and one of them is called GXP. But really, how do we, in a much more validated manner, approach some of these apps? And that's going to be really interesting for us to start moving into this, where the data is a bit more sensitive. Yeah. And that's what we will work on, from here.
Yeah, so a fun Cottywumble, only going to be more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks.